You're watching The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ MV Angela Yee, Charlamagne the God. We are The Breakfast Club. We got a special guest in the building, and Charlamagne is the only guest that I've seen Charlamagne offer somebody tea or water.
Not the only guest I've ever offered tea or water.
I actually have never seen him do that either.
That is a
Would you like some
damn
tea?
lie.
Would you like some water?
Well, that's usually because I offer liquor.
Why did you offer her
So
some
why
liquor?
can't you
I
have
just
some
noticed
liquor?
the bar. I knew about the bar, but I didn't fully know about
But we
the
have
bar.
Lena Dunham here.
Do you want
Welcome
some
to
yak?
the show.
You seem like a cognac drinker.
I've never had cognac.
Really? Do you drink?
I drink like a quarter of a glass of wine, pass out, do things no one wants to talk about, throw up,
Okay.
and carry on. Like it's like I'm the easiest drunk in the world.
Got you. Is it for health reasons? Like they say you drink a glass of wine a day is good for the heart, that kind of stuff?
I can't even drink a glass of wine a day. I don't know why I'm such a bad drinker. My mom is the same way, but both of us, like, we will have half a glass of wine and it's like our underpants are in another country. Like, you just
Really?
don't.
So that must be hard
That's
socially when people
interesting.
are like, let's go
That's
out and have a
interesting.
drink because that's what everyone does.
I can't do it.
And you can't do it.
I drink like 8 lemonades and seltzers and get real sugar high and then like take my operation home.
So what's your advice, Lena? Because you don't seem like you have any inhibitions. Like you get naked when you feel like it.
I do.
So what do you, that's just you?
I drink like 8 of these a day.
Okay.
I take a small amount of Klonopin prescribed by a doctor. You know, a little bit of Class C drugs. Never hurt anybody.
That's for OCD, right?
That's for my
Anxiety,
Yep, that's
too,
for
right?
anxiety and
Yeah.
OCD. So if I need it, really, what are my other vices? I like to shop. I try to keep it under control,
Got you.
and I like to nap.
Great.
I don't know if
big
that's
napper.
advice.
Nap is good.
Sleeping's good for you.
I've been
Okay.
thinking about getting in the Adderall game. I'm not gonna lie.
Why?
But yours seems so focused.
I know, but everybody around me is like people
On
that I
Adderall?
didn't know were on it are on it, and they're like, "Yo, it helps my focus," and I'm like, "Wow."
I feel like everyone I know who's on Adderall has like a great 3 weeks and gets like pretty cracky.
Oh, got
Yeah,
I
you.
don't know.
want
If you don't
you-
need it, why would you take something you don't really need?
I don't want you to fall
Charlamagne.
apart at the seams. You're so in it right
Got you.
now. Stay in it.
Okay.
That's what that would be my advice.
If
Now,
I
you
don't
were
need it, I
talking
won't
about
do
that.
it.
You did homework for the show, and you actually watched some interviews.
I did.
We were asking what interviews did you enjoy? What did you like?
Well, I just love watching you guys do your thing. And it's so much more about sort of like all of your connection than it is even about the guest. But 2 interviews, I particularly enjoyed the Post Malone interview. I don't know why. I just like, maybe it's like the angry college girl in me, just like seeing a couple of people like stick it to a long-haired white guy. Like that's just something that gives me pleasure.
Okay.
And then I watched the Brandy interview, which I've always been a massive Brandy fan since Moesha, so I was just liked how like serious it got and how deep you got in there. Although you said that it became a little tense.
She was upset
After.
after. She was upset.
Because
She cried.
Yeah, you know, she was accused of vehicular homicide at one point.
Oh,
I have a list
it's
going in my head of all the
homicide.
celebrities.
It's homicide.
homicide, not
and
homicide.
And it's vehicular.
Yes. What'd I say?
You said vehicular homicide.
People know what I meant. But what I was saying was, like, you know,
Homicide is something different that I hope none of us have done.
That sounds very.
'Cause that is-
sounds like a hate crime.
Yeah,
I don't know.
we don't want to be a part of it.
Definitely sounds like hate
Say
crime.
homicide.
Homicide.
There you go.
Yes, but people always tease her about that on social media. You know, people cruel on social media, so they constantly.
I would have
remind
no
her,
idea about that.
I've never seen anybody tease her about that.
What? They send her pictures of car wrecks and everything.
How did you even notice
I've
that?
never heard of that either.
There's
How
a
did you-
list
there has
on
to be people you
Wikipedia.
follow.
I will tell you this. I do not have a driver's license. And I am a 30-year-old woman, never got it. I grew up like 10 blocks from here, never got a driver's
Typical
license.
New Yorker.
Yeah.
Can you
Moved-
swim?
I can swim. My mom made sure of that.
Okay.
She made me learn to swim in a public pool that literally had like pieces of human shit at the bottom of it, but she was like, you will learn to swim.
Yeah, definitely won't drown in that.
No, but I was taking driver's ed in LA, and then I made the mistake of going down the Wikipedia rabbit hole, celebrities who have killed people with their cars, and I was like, you know what?
Why would you look that up? Like, what made you Google that?
I saw Rebecca Gayheart out somewhere, and I was like, what is it about Rebecca Gayheart that I remember? Killed someone with her
Killing
car.
somebody in the car.
They didn't
And
make you
then
watch Highway
I
of Death,
looked at
that
the
movie?
list, and I was like, I don't want to ever join this Wikipedia list, and I feel like I really would if I was given my license. So I'm going to continue this Uber lifestyle for as long as
Right.
it'll happen.
That is you know what? Thank you. Thank you. Because your thoughts become things. So if you're constantly thinking about, I'm going to kill somebody in this car, I'm going to kill somebody in this car, you might end up killing
I
somebody
don't
in
think
the
she
car.
thought she was going to kill somebody. She just said she didn't want to. That
I
wasn't in her
kind of
mind.
knew I was going to kill somebody.
I was wrong.
But there has to be
Christ.
times when you go somewhere and it would be so convenient for you to get a rental.
Oh my God, yeah. And there's so many times, especially before Uber, like when I would be in Los Angeles, you would have to call yellow cabs and they'd
Right.
take like 45 to 80 minutes.
It's not like
to
New
show
York
up.
where you just go outside and hail a cab.
No, I'd be like squatting in a Chick-fil-A crying, waiting for my car. Like, you need to be able to drive. It's an adult skill. And I don't want to be like a mom who can't drive my kids to the hospital, but we'll get to that.
You strike me as the type that wants to maintain a sense of just being regular. But I don't know if girls might have changed that for you over the past few years.
Interesting question. You know, I live in Brooklyn. It's super chill. New Yorkers are kind of trained not to say anything. I'm sure you guys have this experience. Like, you know, I
we're
grew
not
up
as
in the
famous as you,
city.
Lena. We don't.
You are, to me, you are very much more famous than me. But in my brain, you have to travel with like 8 security guards and 9 vans. That's my feeling about you.
2 security guards.
We got about 2 security
Two.
guards,
Okay.
2
he,
vehicles.
he just got shot at 2 weeks ago.
You did?
Yeah, his
4 bullets, 3
holes
bullets
in
hit the car, 1 hit the tire. Attempted carjacking.
How do you feel right now? Do you feel trauma?
No, I don't. It's
Nah, I think he's
it's
having some
kinda used-
post-traumatic, but he's not.
It's
He's
kind
not
of
facing
used
it.
to it. It was like a couple days ago, but it's kind of used to it.
Because I like want to come over across the table and like hold you like a baby right now and be like, what do you feel? Are you scared? Are you lonely?
No, I'm good. I'm actually good. They caught the guys that did it, so I'm all right.
Were they people who were specifically going after you?
We don't know because they tried to carjack me. They didn't get me, but 5 minutes later after I got away, because I took off, I was driving down the highway
Yeah.
the wrong way to get away. I got away. But they carjacked somebody 3 minutes later. So
Oh my
I'm
God.
assuming it was just they would carjack.
He's been
3 minutes
shot
later.
out before this too. This is his second time.
It's hip hop.
So if you ever want to write a hood drama, we got stories for you.
Well, I've never been shot at. I will say that. And I'm so sorry that's happened to you. That sounds incredibly traumatic. I have had a guy pretend to be a UPS worker and come into my house and leave me some super creepy notes and try to get up. Like a couple things like
Yikes.
that. But, you know, living in Brooklyn, it's like my boyfriend and I are able to maintain a super regular lifestyle. I never like am going anywhere in crazy grand style. But there's a few situations like when I campaigned for Hillary Clinton, I like to have security with me just because you don't know what kind of
Right.
crazy. I mean, there's some people who politics
out
makes
there.
them really violent, and especially if you're like an outspoken woman and you're a pro-choice woman and you're all about gun control, like those you become. I mean, if I believed everything that was tweeted at me, I would think I was getting death threats, 1,000 times a day. But I tend to think that those are like men in their mom's basements just being like, oh.
See, that's the problem. You don't know what to take serious and what not to take serious.
It's true. You don't, because you could go. And also, I learned this interesting fact I work with this amazing security guy called Gavin DeBecker, who wrote an amazing book called The Gift of Fear. And he said sometimes the people who will out and out say super violent to you are not the people to worry about. The people to worry about are the ones who say the kind of more like, who are these wild fans who say like, I love you, you mean everything to me.
Right.
And then you disappoint them and
And
they're,
then they hate you.
and then they hate you.
It's turn, right?
Yeah, so it's so hard to know, and especially now everyone has so much access to all of us. through
And that's
social
something we
media.
were talking about earlier, like with the whole Kim Kardashian situation.
So
and
awful. I'm like thinking, I literally am thinking about her every day like she's my friend, even though I don't know her. I'm like, is she feeling okay? Is she talking to somebody? Like, I'm worried.
Traumatized. She'll be traumatized forever.
Because sometimes
Ever.
you can't put where you're at, where you're going, if you're leaving your house, if you're at a certain restaurant. It's just difficult because you don't want people to just, run up on you.
Yeah, and I have this feminist newsletter, Lenny Letter, and we just interviewed Gigi Hadid about her getting picked up outside the fashion show in Paris. And luckily, she's like an amateur boxer. So she was able to elbow the guy in the face and get away. But like, that person felt, because she was a public figure, that he had the right to pick her up.
Right.
He probably thought like, this is a model. She puts her body on display. So why aren't I supposed to touch it? And what I really hate about this Kim thing is that people are feeling so much license to make jokes, and it's like, that's a human being, and she may have put her life on display in this specific way, and you may not agree with everything that she does, but like, that is a woman who is just, and a mother and a daughter
Yep,
who's just been
absolutely.
put through something so heinous. So my heart is with Kim.
It's a simple gauge for me. A, do you want it to happen to you? B, do you want it to happen to somebody you love? If the answer is no, you can't make jokes about it.
No, that's a
You can't-
really good gauge.
Now let's talk about girls.
Oh, yeah. Let's
Oh.
do
Last
that.
season of Girls coming up.
We just wrapped 4 days ago.
I
Has
saw
it hit
your
you?
very emotional letters that you were writing.
Does it feel over?
Well, we still have to edit it. We still have to promote it. But I have to say that last night, I was weeping like a mother bleeping baby. I couldn't believe it just because it's been my whole... I started writing the show when I was 23. I'm 30 now. Those are all that's my family. Those are my best friends. So it felt like this crazy loss. And even though we can all like go out to dinner, we've formed this incredible culture. And like, I woke up the next day and I was like, what do I even do with myself? Who am I? Like, I kind of walked out into the street like, what do I do when I'm not on this television show? I guess the answer is come to the Breakfast Club and bother you guys.
Why do you feel like it had to be the last season, though? Because I felt like it could have continued on.
It's a great question. I mean, I think it's like when people start a job so young, you have to give them room to grow. And I'm including myself, but I'm also thinking about all the actors that I work with. Like, their careers are taking off. Adam's in Star Wars. Allison's starring in this movie that's going to be amazing. Jordan Peele's movie Get Out, which is coming out in February. They all have, I mean, Jemima's a painter. She has 2 kids. Everyone has passions, and like, I want to let them grow and develop. And I felt like there was a certain point, I never wanted to become that show where everyone's like, yeah, I'm just going to my day job. Like, we've had so much love for it every day that we've done it. And I wanted to go out with us all still having that connection and that passion for what we do, because I think it translates onto the screen. And I could feel like, and my partner, Jenny Connor, and our other producer, Judd Apatow, we talked and we were like, you know, we could go on, but it feels like the moment where it's like, we've kind of captured this magic energy between us, so let's finish out the way we started. And it was beautiful. Like, at the end, we all cried, we all hugged, we were all like, you're my sister. Give it 3 more years, and we all would have been like,
I hate
ever
you.
look at me again. I can't believe you wore the same dress as me to this award show. We never got into that zone.
Well, tell us what Girls is about for somebody that doesn't know. I don't watch Girls. These guys talk about Girls.
I still have
I've
like
been
my
committed since day one. You know, it's funny. People come to me and they be like, "You still watch Girls?" And I'm like, "Yo, I'm committed. I'm committed to these characters."
Well, you know, Charlamagne, you tweeting about it was like a very big deal for all of us.
Really?
Yes, of course, because he's
not a girl, and
he's not a girl. Our
You know how
average,
many people call me gay for that? You're gay. You watch Girls. I'm like, it's a show full of women.
it's a show full of naked women. It's like the least gay thing you could ever do.
Yeah, Lisa Bonet was on last season.
How good did she
Come
look?
on, man.
Donna Glover was on.
Well, tell us
I
about this
know.
now. Naked women.
Love Donald Glover.
Girls.
Atlanta's so good.
Yeah,
Tell
his
us
show
about
is so
this.
It's a show about 4 girls, now women, who kind of come to New York to like make their fortune, as so many
Brooklyn.
do, Brooklyn, and then realize like, oh, this is not the Sex and the City world. This is the world where like you can't even find an apartment that has enough room for 2 people and doesn't have rats.
So it's
Like,
real.
So that was our goal. Like, the apartments are tiny, our actors barely wear makeup, the sex isn't sexy. It's just about what it feels like to be in your 20s and struggling and hustling, and how impossible it feels, and how it causes you to be not that nice to your friends and destructive in your relationships.
Right.
And so I would say like the most marked characteristic is that all the characters are best friends but kind of hate each other.
Yeah, some of those characters are kind of foul.
Yeah.
In particular, Jessa.
She's a
I don't know if that
piece
could
of
be
work.
my friend. I'm just saying.
Well,
She started sleeping with Adam.
Yeah, how'd you feel about that?
I was happy for Adam only because, you know, I'm a man. So I'm like, oh, wow, go. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
then I
and
thought
she's
that
very
was just foul because y'all
beautiful.
supposed to be best friends. But y'all were broken up. Y'all were broken up, but it's still a girl code.
But they were
That's-
still sneaking around, which is really, at
That's
least
the thing. I was like, if they had just come to Hannah and been like, listen, we're in love and this
Yep.
is what we're going to do. But they snuck around and then they made her find out in this terrible way. And it was funny because Jemima, who plays Jessa, is like my best friend since I was 11 in real life. And she was like, I don't want to do this. And every scene afterwards, she'd be like, I'm so sorry. And I'd be like, you do realize that's not my real boyfriend and this is a
just a
television
show,
show.
right.
Like, you're not hurting my feelings.
And I always felt like Adam was the boyfriend that your girls would be like, ew, I
I
can't
didn't
believe
even
you're
like.
with
I'm
him.
not gonna lie. I didn't really like Adam that much as a boyfriend. I
He
felt like he
grows
did.
on you, though,
yeah, I was
doesn't
gonna
he?
say
Yeah.
he developed into because he was kind of a loser at first. I felt
At
like.
first, he like never left his apartment and never put a shirt on, but he became more desirable. And I think that was part of what shocked Hannah, is that all her friends hated him, and then suddenly one of her friends is like living with him and in love with him. But the fact is like that's one of the top things that happens in your 20s. Like, how do you meet people? You meet your friends, you meet your friends' friends, you meet your friends' exes.
Right.
When my parents got together, they both had other people who they were both like 2 friends as a couple, and then did a little bit of a do-si-do.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's one of my favorite. I mean, my
Who
parents
cheated? Who
funky.
cheated first? Did they cheat together or?
I think my mom was the one who was being naughty. She's not. I'm just relying on the fact that my mom doesn't listen to the Breakfast Club. But I think my
She's
mom.
gonna hear this.
She's gonna
See,
think of
stuff
the
like that
one.
makes me wonder about the universe, though, because was she technically cheating or was she moving in the direction God wanted her to move in?
Well, that's kind of how I feel. Is like it would be one thing if they'd gotten together, like twice and then never spoken again, and she'd made her boyfriend feel real bad. But
Yeah.
the fact is like they had 2 children together and they've been together for 40
They're
years.
soulmates.
So
They soulmates.
They are soulmates.
Yeah.
But it involved upsetting a few. Right here in Soho, it involved upsetting a couple other people and making some trouble. But that's what 27-year-olds do.
You just made a great case for cheating. Like, at least just
Do
try.
it.
Shout out to all the homewreckers out there.
Yep. Well, it's also more complicated. Like, I know people have such anger towards
Right, they
people,
do.
but it's like the fact is, at the end of the day, like, people don't. I believe that people don't cheat. People don't like you can't come in and wreck a perfectly happy relationship. I think, like, I feel in my relationship with my boyfriend, we're very connected. It would be very hard for, like, a woman to walk on the scene and just remove him. Maybe I'm delusional and, like, he's literally, like, having sex with 3 people at home right now. I don't know.
But what if Rihanna was like, I just want to have sex with him one time?
I'd be like, why don't you have sex with me one time?
Wow.
Damn, Jack.
Right, Leah?
I'd be like, let's flip this situation and just.
You got to go through me to get to him.
You gotta go through
Exactly.
me first.
It seems like you got a poppin' sex life though, because it reflects in your art. Like it's always a lot of sex and girls, and not just regular sex. Like you really had me when you had Marnie getting her ass eaten.
You liked that?
He loves
Because he likes to eat ass.
He loves eating ass.
I actually
I don't
know
like how
that.
y'all said that.
I know that because I was. Who were you interviewing where I watched you say, like, I love to eat ass?
I
and
like to suck a fart out your butt.
You say that to a lot of ladies.
I
Yeah.
used to. I'm married now.
Oh, so now you're not.
Yeah, my wife doesn't like that.
It's
Now
funny
he doesn't
because
say it on
I
the
tell,
radio.
man, I say filthy things to people all the time, but I'm in a super committed relationship, and my boyfriend's just like, that's just who she is. I don't care. We've been together
It's not going to work for him.
for 5 years, but your wife does not want you telling women that you're gonna.
Yeah,
suck
I've been
fart
with
out
my
of
wife
their
since
butt.
'98. I don't have the best track record, so when I say
He's
it,
had
I
some
might
issues.
possibly end up
Doing
doing
it.
it. Yeah.
I have to say this, which is that I do a lot of sexual stuff on television, and I had a like adventuresome early 20s. I'm 30 now,
You
but
went through your whole phase, as we call it.
I really went through it. I posted a picture on Instagram the other day of me, and I was so tempted to be like, I just wrote like, what a wild time, but really I wanted to be like, I was on OxyContin and had sex with 4 people this week. Like I just was like, but that's not information that anybody needs. But the fact is that I've been with the same guy for 5 years.
Yeah.
I love him. I adore him. I would never talk about our sex life publicly. I respect him deeply. And I'm actually weirdly kind of like prudish. Like I'll do anything on TV, but like if somebody says something sexual to me in real life, I like turn beet red. Like I really have
So in real
to-
life, if a guy's like, you dirty little slut whore.
I'd be really like,
But on TV, it's like.
on TV, and also in my early 20s, I think so
That
much
made
of
me
it.
hurt just now when you said that.
Yeah,
You
right.
dirty
Yeah.
little slut whore. What you
Slut
talking
whore.
about?
I also think, and I don't know if you connect to this, is like a lot of it in my early 20s was that I didn't love myself very much. So anything that anyone brought to the table, I was like, I guess, like, I know, like, Monique has this bit she does in Queens of Comedy where she talks about how, like, if you're, like, a chubby girl, you have to just be up for anything sexually. Like, she's like, you can't make any rules because that's what you
That
have
is
to
true.
offer.
Fat girls be freaks. No, for real,
Yeah,
yo.
that's
is
what
true.
Monique says. And I remember watching that when I was like 22 and being like, I know what you're saying. Like I was like chubby, anxious, covered in pimples, and just didn't feel like I had the right to
Say no.
say no or
yeah.
advocate for myself. And so much of my life from 25 to 30 has just been being like, no, my worth is about more than my body, and my worth is about more than whether I look like a supermodel. And so that's really freed me up to connect to myself, as like to think like, what do I want, rather than like, oh, I'm gonna like, crawl around on the floor for some guy who doesn't even.
Right, I'm going to do some
know
things
my
I
last
don't
name.
enjoy just so you can
Yeah.
feel like I'm a freak.
So,
Yeah.
so was getting naked like a defense mechanism? Like, I even think back to like Tiny Furniture. You was in your underwear a lot in that. Like, was
The
that?
fact that you even know about Tiny Furniture makes me feel so alive. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think a lot of it was like, I know that I don't have a traditional body. It's funny. My whole family, my dad, my mom, my sister, everyone is like 5'11" and like 30 pounds lighter than me. Like my boyfriend's always like, what mailman did your mom for you to come out this way? Like I'm just this like I'm like this little like duckling following around this like family of hot people. And so I think I always felt like literally like my sister's modeled, my mom is like 67, and like we were out in the park a few weeks ago and a guy came up to me and was like, love your show. And then he came up to my mom and he was like, you're beautiful. Like start complimenting me, then hit on my mother.
Got you.
So I think I was best friends with Jemima, who's now on the show, who was like the most beautiful, still beautiful, but like literally I would be out on the street with her when she was 9 months pregnant and she'd be getting hit on and I'd be like a perfectly nubile 22-year-old who was being ignored. And so I think I had this feeling like I need to expose a body that I know so many women have. And it did make me feel strong, and it does. And I'm sort of coming out of that phase now. I don't need that in order to feel fully formed, but there was this part of me that was just like, see me, and don't just see me, see all the women who look like me and understand that like this is what a female body is.
Yeah.
Because we don't see, what we see is not real, and we all know that. And we're, I think, moving in a direction of people wanting to be more open about like what the human form looks like. But especially when we started Girls 5 years ago, like people had like violent reactions to seeing me naked, like repulsed reactions, and I was like, it's so crazy because probably half the guys who are so horrified about this is what your girlfriend looks like. This is what your wife
More
looks
than
like.
half.
This is what your mother looks like. Like, this is a body.
Now, even when you say traditional body, like what is a traditional body? Like,
Well, it changes based on history, but like but there is always a body that's in vogue. So like, I don't know what you would say. You guys would know better as dudes, like what the body that is.
I would
it's
say
interesting-
asses maybe a couple years ago was really in. I mean, it was always in
Yeah.
the
Asses
hood,
still
but
in, asses have been in now.
Yeah.
Big
Although-
waist trainers usually, fat asses.
Yeah, waist trainers, which I heard are not very good for your inner
No, not at all.
organs.
Yeah.
oh,
I
they're
think
killing.
they kind of
kill.
crush your
So many women
organs.
dying because of waist trainers.
But
No, I think
here's
they're dying because of butt shots.
That too.
the butt shots thing is really intense. It was actually my boyfriend who explained it to me because he's a producer, and so he will like be hanging out in the studio and hear girls like having these quiet conversations, like, "Oh yeah, I got these butt shots," and I was like sitting in my house, and even me, I'm like this like feminist who hasn't even had my teeth whitened. I'm like, do I need butt shots? Like it
You
gets
definitely
in
with
your
that.
head.
It's illegal. But
I
Not all
don't.
of them are illegal.
No, yeah,
What?
not all of them.
But you
No,
know,
butt
and in,
shots are
something I've
illegal.
noticed
The shots
recently
are,
is
not
that
transfer.
the idea of a traditional body, the idea of like a body that is so, the idea of a body that's like idolized by American culture, so often it's being marketed towards women. And the fact is like, I've been 30 pounds heavier than I am. I've been 20 pounds lighter. Amy Schumer said something similar. It's never stopped me from getting laid. Like, it's just never,
Right.
it's like, at the end of the day, I actually think that men are accepting of a much, and women are sexually are accepting of a much wider spectrum of bodies. But what's being marketed to women in cosmetics ads and what's being marketed to women in fashion magazines is different and is destructive. In
How
its
did you
own way.
how did you get to doing writing? Because it seemed like you had low self-esteem at one time. It seems like you weren't proud of your body, but now it seems like you're super
Writing
duper proud. Like,
probably
what turned
helps.
your ass around?
Well, I'm not always proud of it. I definitely have moments where I walk into like the Golden Globes and I'm like 8 inches shorter than everybody and like wearing a giant sack and I'm like, how the did I get here? And that I think
You
will
care
never
about
go
the
away.
opinions of others too much, Lena.
Really?
Yes.
Like you're too in your head.
But don't you think as a writer you are more emotional and a lot more maybe thinking about
My dad always says this thing because both of my parents are artists. My dad's like, artists have like, and I'm sure you guys feel this because you're creative people. Like, it's almost like your skin is another organ. I mean, your skin is an organ, but it's like you feel everything.
Right.
Like you're so raw. And so I do feel, so there's a part of me that doesn't give a which is why I do what I do. But then there's also the part of me that just like wants people around me to be happy and accept me and connect with me. And those two things are kind of always doing battle and probably will be for a long time. But in terms of getting into writing, like it was always the thing that made me forget about everything else.
it's like therapeutic.
Yeah.
as
And so
people
when
say.
I'm writing, I'm just free. And I still feel that way to this day. Like
Dope.
everything falls away. And I think a lot of writers would say the same thing.
I
This
think
is
for anybody,
interesting.
because I was an English major in school too, and I went to school for writing. But I think for anybody, if you are having some issues in your life or things that you just need to get clarity on, it is always good to kind of write things down because it does help you just kind of feel better. Just even if you're not a writer, I feel like that's just something that's always been a helpful practice.
Even just keeping a journal is like one of the most beautiful things that you can do.
So
And for
someone find
me,
it and read it.
when I'm writing, I forget like 2 hours. I can be sitting there for 12 hours and have no idea what even transpired. And it's the only time where I'm like, I can, feel people's opinions on Twitter. I can feel people's opinions on the street. But in my art, I'm like safe and I'm immune. And I'm like it feels like almost like a superpower when you're inside your work. I don't know if you guys feel that way. You're like,
Absolutely. It's all about the work for me.
Yeah.
Like that's the most fulfilling feeling, not the money or anything. I like creating great work.
which you
But-
do every day.
Thank you. It's interesting with you though because you're a feminist.
I am.
So it's kind of like you're against being objectified, but it sounds like you want to be objectified just a little bit.
It's complicated. And I think a lot of women think that feminism means having a clear perspective on your own sort of like strength and power at every moment. And I have a friend called Roxane Gay who wrote an amazing book called Bad Feminist. And what's so interesting about it is it's like she's really looking at the fact that like being a feminist is full of contradictions. Just because I want to have it all and just because I want to have like, just because I want to have equal pay, equal rights, control over my reproductive rights, and a sense that I can walk into a room and have the same kind of power and not be dismissed because of the body that I was born into. There's also part of me that will never lose the sense that I want that kind of attention that I was always told that women are supposed to have. And so those two things, you can be a true blue, passionate feminist and still feel the pain and challenge and rejection of being a woman in this culture. And both of those things can live together at the same time. I don't know if you ever feel that, like you're like, I'm tough, I'm strong, I'm amazing. And I also kind of like want someone to look at my butt while I'm walking down the street.
Right.
And like,
But then if I say, Lena, you got a fat ass, you're like, don't talk to me like that.
I probably actually wouldn't say that.
Say
I'd probably
thank
be like, thank you.
Thank you. I've been doing squats.
I actually am not that. It's like if someone came up to me and grabbed me, I would be like, don't touch me. And if
Yeah,
someone
that's too
came up
much.
to me and said something that was really disrespectful about me or a friend, but like if somebody says like you have a beautiful body, I'm always like, thank
That's a
you very
compliment.
much.
Right.
I appreciate that, and I think that like as long as it's isn't accompanied by unwanted forced attention, or if you weren't like, hey, it's one thing to say like you've got a fat ass, I'd be like, thank you. If you were like, you've got a fat ass, and if you don't let me touch it, I'm gonna tell everybody that you did X, Y. I mean, like there's
Right.
there's
Right.
shades and degrees. Like there's sexual harassment, and there's like making somebody feel like
Attractive.
they're a beautiful
Right.
woman, and those two things. And I think what's hard is like the line is gray and it's messy, and like we all have to find it for ourselves. But like nothing makes me feel better than when I come into work and like one of the guys who I work with goes like, "You look really pretty today," and it's like.
Thank
It's
you.
nice because I'm
Yeah.
like, I already know you think I'm smart, so thanks.
Yeah.
This feels good.
Being a feminist doesn't mean that you want to be unattractive and not have people find you attractive and desirable.
No,
That's
but
not what it means.
No, not at all. And I think that there was a moment in the 70s where women, where like first wave feminists felt like male attention, that they couldn't get male attention without pandering to male attention. But the fact is like I think like so many women, we dress for ourselves,
Right.
but then the feedback that we get feels good, and we're allowed to embrace the complexity of that. And that's one of the reasons why when people like go like the Kardashians aren't feminists, blah blah blah, I'm like, we're not allowed to make assessments about other women's feminism just because they care about their bodies in a different way than you do.
I still appreciate when somebody opens the door for me. When a man opens the door, I can still say, thank you.
My boyfriend said on our first date, he said, I'm not going to open the door for you because I'm a feminist and I respect that you can open the door for yourself. And I said, I think that's lazy and you're going to start opening the door for
Absolutely.
me.
Now let's talk about black people.
I'm in.
Now, when girls first started, you got a lot of controversy because they said you didn't have a lot of black faces on there. Do you think you?
And as they said, especially in Brooklyn, where there's such a diverse
Yeah.
amount of different races, they were like, why is there no black
you think you've made up for that over the seasons?
I'm not going to say that I've made up for it because I think that what I really will be making up for it is if I can, which is what I'm trying to do with my newsletter and what Jenny and I are trying to do with our production company, is if we can support female voices of color the way that our voices have been supported. Because I think that everyone's criticism about girls was totally valid, but at the end of the day, there need to be female creators. Like that's why I'm so excited about Insecure and Issa Rae, is because it's like
Right.
that voice needs to be on television. It doesn't need to be my voice telling the story of a black woman's New York experience. It needs to be Issa getting to go deep and go personal about what it feels like for her to be a black woman, a young black woman dating in Los Angeles right now. And when I started the show, I was 23, and I'm half Jewish and half Christian. I wrote like 2 Jews and 2 Christians. Like it was so close to home for me. And I was writing these characters who were all in some way extensions of myself.
Which is
Looking
normal.
back, yes, but looking back, like I don't ever want to see another show on TV I never want to see another poster that's 4 white girls. I don't think we need to live in a world where we have a poster that's 4 white girls.
Right.
That being said, at age 23, I do not think I was equipped to. I didn't want to just write. The fact is like the experience of being a young black woman in Brooklyn is different than the experience of being a young white woman in Brooklyn. And I wanted to write from a place of accuracy and passion and understanding. And so in the future, I would love to collaborate with and support women who want to tell their stories rather than attempt to sort of co-opt their stories so that I have the cast that looks great on a poster.
I'm glad you said that because a lot of women of color feel like you ignore them when it comes to like feminism. I see articles where they say you focus on feminism, but you mean equality for white women and not black women of color.
That's definitely a criticism that I've gotten, and it's one of the main reasons, again, that Jenny Connor and I started Lenny Letters, just to have a diversity of voices and to say, like, I've been given this incredible gift, she's been given this incredible gift, to share what we have to say. So how can we spread that? And I have to say, like, over the 6 years of doing Girls, I've learned so much about intersectional feminism. I mean, it's like, and there's such a dark history. I mean, like, the suffragettes who wanted to get the vote, they were like, hey, our black sisters, you're kind of, it's too much. We're trying to get the vote. It's kind of too much for us to bring you along with us. So why don't you just take a beat? Like, white feminists do not have a great history of carrying their black sisters along with them. And I read a book about 4 years ago called Divided Sisters about intersectional feminism that really blew my mind open. It was written by a white woman and a black woman who are best friends, who were talking about the experience of trying to connect about their feminism and recognizing that it's not one size fits all, and there are issues that women of color deal with that white women have no idea. So even though white women can sometimes feel like a repressed minority, there's an entire subsection of issues that we can't even relate to, like the sense that you have to be scared when your child leaves the house, like the sense that you don't know if they're going to be able to come home, like the fact that people are assuming that you're not capable of doing a specific kind of job. Like, and so every
you've been having
single
some conversations with some black women, huh?
yeah, I mean, I have some I'm not trying to brag about it. I'm not, but I have some amazing, amazing friends who are enlightened, complex, beautiful, multifaceted black women who it shouldn't be their job to educate me, because it shouldn't be anyone's job to educate anyone, but they've been there for me to have that dialogue, and I'm really blessed by that, because I can't grow as a feminist and I can't grow in my perspective if I'm not hearing all of that feedback. And like, I feel like just our whole job in life is to like evolve.
That's dope, because I be watching your social media, and when they get on you, and I be like, how is she ignoring all these black women's tweets?
Well, part of it is that I don't run my own Twitter.
You don't?
No, I send my tweets to someone because it just got too violent. So it's like,
Wow.
so I say to her, I'm like, if there's a thoughtful tweet from someone, please send it to me, and I would love to respond. But I can't go on there and comb through all that, because maybe there's going to be 5 brilliant or just interesting questions from black women that I'd love to answer, but it's mixed with like, hey, you piece of shit hoe, you should be stoned in the street. I'm gonna your dad. Like, I can't look through all that stuff. It's too much. So like, I'm saying right here, like, those are the dialogues that I want to have, and especially as I've been out campaigning for Hillary Clinton, I've realized how important it is.
Gosh.
Like I don't want to be. I'm going to Florida at the end of the month and North Carolina, and I'm bringing an amazing and diverse group of women with me, because I was like, it's not enough and it's not cool to be out there as just like a solo white woman being like,
Gotcha.
don't take away my reproductive rights, because that's not actually the biggest issue at stake in the election. And I do have issues that are at stake in the election, but like, my feminist sisters of color have issues that are that they need to be able to speak about on a public platform.
There's some pictures of you filming the last season,
Oh yeah.
and it looks like there might be an addition, or is that a spoiler for everybody?
Well, let's just say, I'm just going with the line, the pictures where people thought I looked pregnant. Let's just say I ate a huge hamburger and then find out
that
next.
was not a hamburger.
Let's just find out next season. I mean, I think if you look at the pictures, it's pretty obvious what's
Right.
going on. The good thing is that like, Girls isn't necessarily a show that's all about the spoilers. Like, we're not Game of Thrones. So
Okay.
Right.
it's about the connections between the people. So that's why at first when I saw the paparazzi, I was like, oh, and then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to stand here proudly, because
Proudly pregnant.
what else can we do?
Gotcha.
I had the best line. A guy said to me, I was standing there in the costume, shall we say, and he looked at me and went, are you really pregnant? And I said, no. And he said, so what are you doing later? And I was like, bold, sir. And I was like, what if I'd said yes? Would you also have asked me what I was doing later? I liked it, though.
You like they turned you on?
I did. I liked it.
So why? This is my show question. Why'd you turn your father gay on girls? Was
Well,
was that based off a personal experience, or just
My real dad is straight as hell.
okay?
I mean, he's very in touch with
Was
his...
he mad about that?
He actually did say to me, he was like, do you know how many people have asked your mom if I'm gay? And he's like, do you know how many people have been like, was your 40-year marriage a sham? We always felt like there was something there, like a complexity and a wrinkle as to why Hannah was who she was. And it made sense, 4th season, for that to come out. And the actor who did it, Peter Scolari, did it so beautifully and so sensitively. And I loved playing that, because it's like, she has to be an adult. Like, she can't be a child about it. She has to go like, you know what? I have to be there for my dad. He's going through this transition. I'm an adult woman, and I can't make this all about me. So that was a really fun storyline to play.
It's an interesting world, because I watch Grace and Frankie too.
Do you like Grace and Frankie?
Yes, because I've never seen that world.
That is so cool that you watch that show. It's so good, and but it's like the fact that you're watching 2 women in their 70s who are divorcees, like, that makes me really happy.
But he doesn't watch Game of Thrones.
No, I don't watch Game of Thrones.
I mean, I'm an HBO employee, so I shouldn't say this, but I watch Game of Thrones over the shoulder of my boyfriend. I understand the basic gist, but I become afraid and confused.
Now, my political question is: are you supporting Hillary just because she's a woman, and you're a feminist?
The answer to that would be no, although I understand why the question comes up. Am I thrilled at the idea of having a woman president? Yes, but if I wanted a woman president over everything else, I would have just voted for freaking, I would have like campaign for Sarah Palin and
No,
been
you
excited
wouldn't
about that.
Right.
But like, you're
That's a
right.
good
No, I
point,
wouldn't
though.
have. But like,
No, you
I do think that Hillary is the most qualified candidate at this moment in a terrifying moment in American history who has incredibly thoughtful policy proposals. And the fact that she's a woman, yes, that gets me really excited too. But if there was somebody who I thought was more fit for the job, or if I thought Hillary was unfit for the job, I'd wait for the right woman to come along.
And I also thought it was dope that you owned up to the Odell thing too.
Oh my God, thank you. Yeah,
What
that.
happened with Odell?
Oh, I'm.
She was in her head,
gosh.
her own
I was in my
insecurities.
own
Let me sit down.
Yeah.
I was in my
Well,
own
he
head.
loves Odell.
It was a great lesson to me in how your humor can be misconstrued. Because to me, so many of my jokes are about like being insecure in my body, projecting onto other people. But in the written word, it did not
Translate.
translate. And
He
so
tried to
people,
holler at you?
No,
No,
he
he
did
didn't.
not try to
Actually,
holler
he
at me.
tried to holler at her.
He did the opposite of try to
acknowledge
holler
her.
at me. And I was at the Met Ball and feeling super self-conscious. You know, when like Beyonce and Solange and 5 Victoria's Secret models and the Hadid sisters, everyone's at your table and you're sitting there. And I just had this whole projected thought process of like, Odell doesn't want to be sitting next to me. He doesn't want to be talking to me. He thinks I'm garbage. He thinks I look like a boy. And so I thought all of that was coming across, and it seemed like I was actually accusing him of some kind of misogyny. And the other thing that I was really grateful that women especially educated me about on Twitter was like, I was unintentionally perpetuating like the stereotype of like a black man as someone who will holler at anything that's near him. And that, especially at this moment in history, we have to be hyper vigilant about the way that we depict each other because of how much darkness and tension exists in this like Trumpified world that we're in. So I apologized immediately. I apologized to him privately. I was like, I think he's the coolest. I think he's an amazing dancer. I respect his career. As little as I know about sports, I respect his career. And I just will be much more careful in the future about making sure that like my humor translates and that it doesn't have in any way, like it's not destructive. It's not creating destructive images for young black men.
So you think a lot of times when you have this this is my last question, I promise. A lot of times when you have this self-victimization, it's really just humor. It's not you playing the victim. It's you just trying to be funny.
I thought it was the funniest idea in the world at the time. I was like, it's so funny. I was dressed like a tiny boy and sitting next to Odell. Of course, if I was a beautiful professional athlete surrounded by singers and models, that was who I would talk to, not a tiny little man-woman in a tuxedo. But
Stop saying
when
that.
I explained it,
Stop saying that.
when I
downs herself,
explained
man.
it, when
Need a
it
hug
didn't
over there.
sound like that. And that's the fact
Right.
is like, you can't sit there complaining my joke didn't translate. If your joke didn't translate, it means your joke wasn't funny and your joke didn't work. And as a comedian and as a writer, you have to own up to that. And the other thing is like the idea that it seemed like I was like, I always feel like I'm so like the little person in the room, and I had to realize like, oh wait, I'm a celebrity. My words carry weight. And it seemed like I was ascribing some really negative thoughts and behavior to Odell, who just because he was looking at his phone, which he has every right to do, doesn't mean he had a single thought about me. So it was really important. The minute that people responded, I was like, oh God, I have to say something.
Yeah.
And full mea culpa, because like the last thing I want, I think his response was, I don't want to have problems with anybody. I'm like, I really don't want to have problems with
Yeah,
anybody.
he said, I don't know enough about the situation to comment on it.
Right.
He said something like that.
which
He
is totally great. Like, that's good. He's living his life.
Right.
He's doing his thing. He shouldn't be focusing on some dumb shit that I said.
All right, well, part 2 coming soon. We look forward to having you back.
Yes, we
Yeah.
gotta have
Come
Lena
back.
back.
Million
It's a
more
dream.
things. When the new season of Girls starts, you got to come. The last final
Please.
season.
I bet your therapy session's fire too. You get therapy?
I've been in it since I was 7.
Ah,
You want to come?
I'd love to. I want to go for CBT actually.
Why? You want to go for cognitive behavioral
Behavior
therapy?
therapy. Yeah.
For what? To solve what
I
issue?
just feel like I overthink things. Not to the extent of I think I'm ugly and stuff like that, but just I overthink.
I think
things.
I'm beautiful.
I would
just am
hope
working
so.
A bit. Yeah.
You love yourself, right?
Yeah, I love
Okay.
myself. I take so many nude mirror selfies.
There you go. Well, there
love-
you have it.
I love myself. I love my back. I especially love my boobs, but I also have a complicated relationship with all of it because life is not one-dimensional.
All you gotta do is whisper to Jack, say, "Is my fire?" If he says yes, you good.
Do you know what he would do if I said, "Is my fire?"
What?
He'd be like, "What is your on fire?" He would have no idea what
Do
I
we
was
need to get
talking
some
about.
water?
Goodness
Are you
gracious.
in danger?
Are you in danger? Goodness gracious. Ladies and gentlemen, it's
Lena
Lena
Dunham.
Dunham.
Thank
it's
you.
The Breakfast Club. Good
What
morning.
an honor.
The Breakfast Club. Every weekday morning. Tune in